Hi there, this is Ryan with FlexFire LEDs. I'm going to show you how to hook up a flex strip with a 10 amp power supply. Power supply is going to show up in a box like this. Pull it out and you can see there's all these terminals here. We have an L, N, ground, which we don't need. Commons, your positives, so it's also known as like your negative or your black line, and your positives are your red line. And then you can actually adjust your voltage. So if the lights are malfunctioning or something's going on, you're actually able to do that right there on the power supply. This is your cable that plugs into the wall. Remember that when you plug this in, these are live, so it's almost like if you were to grab these and this is plugged in, it's as if you just stuck your fingers in the light socket. We're also going to use this to simulate the wire that you'd use to run from your power supply to the lights wherever they might be. Your LED lights are going to come in an electrostatic protective bag. When you get your lights, if you buy a whole reel, they're pre-soldered in one place. Now, you're going to be able to then cut them wherever you want, where these little gold plated pieces are, every 3 LEDs. And we're going to show you how to hook up a solderless connector with that as well. So to start off, you can use a Phillips or a flat-headed screwdriver. We have our AC. It doesn't matter which goes in which on the L and the N. And we put it in and tighten it down. The way the power supply is wired, you can't mess it up. Also known as non-polar. And you can see, it's non-polar by the plug, because either way you put the plug in, they're the same size. I don't know if you've noticed, but some plugs have a bigger side than the other. That determines whether it's positive or negative. So now we got this plugged in, and I forgot to mention, ensure that this is not plugged in while we're working with it at any time. So until you're ready to turn the lights on and all the wiring's done, do not plug this end in. Crucial step. Now this is where the colors start to matter. You have your red, which is we're going to use as positive, just like we have a red over here on coming off our LED strip, or our solderless connectors also have a red and a black. So we plug our red in to the positive of, it says it's a plus sign and a V. And so that gets put right in there. And you've also noticed that there's multiple, there's 4 places here. They have 2 commons or 2 negatives and 2 positives. So you can run multiple lights, or 2 different series of lights off the same, and you could actually go more than that, but they have places for just 2. So we tighten that down, not too tight, you don't want to break it. So now we have power that's going to come in. It gets transformed from 120, depending on where you live, from 120, and in the United States we all run on 120. Overseas is generally it's called 220 or 240, and then it goes through all that and it comes out at 12 volts, and that's where I was talking about. You can adjust it. It comes pre-adjusted, so there's no need to worry about it. It's mainly for electricians. If you can run different types of lighting on there as well. So now we have it coming out of the power supply, or the the power supply, and because we're running 12 volt, we don't have to use butt splices. You don't have to. While it can, some people recommend it. You can use just electrical tape. So what I'm doing is I'm stripping the wires here so I can connect the 2. So you get a good 1/4 or 1/2 inch. Now we take the red and the red, and those go together. Now that's positive and positive. I'll make sure I show this. I don't know how well you can see it. You can see it in some of the still photos we have on our site. There's a positive side. It's a little plus arrow, and the other side doesn't have anything, and that's your negative side. So we're going to take that. We're going to wire it up. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. Take the black. Now remember, the color doesn't matter as much as whether it's positive or negative. So if you have the positive here, it goes to the positive over here. If you do it all correct from the start, then red goes to red. We wire this one. Make sure it's good and tight. Get some electrical tape. Now we want to make sure we cover each one individually. Just like this. Oh, that one popped off. And then we'll connect them together. Or we'll tape them together rather, excuse me. That'll help keep them nice and secure. And generally before I tape them together, I like to test them to make sure that the connections are all good. And that's it. So now all we got to do is plug this bad boy in. And voila, we have light. Now, what I'll do is, at that point, I would generally tape the two together and secure it all down. Now, let's say we've cut the strip. Let's just say that we've cut the strip. And we have to use a solderless connector now. Okay. Now if I was to hook up the solderless connector to this strip this way, the red is going to connect to the positive, but if I hook it up to this side, now if I flip it over, now the black is going to hook up to the positive. So you got to be cognizant of that. It's okay to run it like this as long as you understand that the black is now the positive, and hopefully I'm coming across clear with that. If you're at all get discombobulated and gets confusing, just remember, go positive to the red. I grabbed our Color Bright solderless connector instead of our Super Bright. Okay. Sorry, I'm having to disconnect this thing here and strip it down real quick so we can get a good connection. And these are handy. These are, I think, $8 at Home Depot, and they cut all your different wire sizes right to the right size, as opposed to using a pair of scissors or a razor or something where you end up cutting off a lot of the strand. So the first thing you saw was this entire reel, and that's 5 meters. So it's like 16.4 feet is what that converts to. Now remember, red to red, and even though this wire here is white, or whatever color that wire ends up being, you know, the other to the negative. So we wire these together. We're going to put some tape around them again. A little bit more electrical tape. And electrical tape you can buy pretty much everywhere. I mean, they'll have it at Walmart in the tools section. You go to Target in the little tools section. You can go to Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, your local hardware store. Everybody has electrical tape. You don't want to use any other kind of tape. Electrical tape is rated to not catch fire, so when it heats up, it doesn't flame up. If you use like a paper tape, there's a chance that it can catch fire. So this is our solderless connector. It has the tray, which is the black piece. That's where the bottom of the strip goes to the black. And the white is what actually transfers the electricity across to the strip. Now remember, red goes to the positive side here. And we slip this in. So we pulled it out, we slipped in the LED lights with the bottom side to the black, and then we pull this little tray down. It's probably tough to see. When you have it in front of you, it's a lot easier to understand. So now this is secure. When you pull it back, it actually locks it in place. So now you can't pull this thing out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to test it by plugging it in. Remember, we don't plug it in until all the wiring's done. And voila, we have light. It's kind of nice about our power strips, or power supply, excuse me, is that a lot of power supplies have a requirement that you utilize 50% of the capacity of the power supply, meaning if the power supply is rated at 5 amps, you have to use at least 2.5 to get the lights to work. With ours, you do not have to worry about that. You could run 1 foot, or you could run 16 feet off of this one power supply and not really worry about it. One last thing to mention, there is a selector switch inside. So if you're running on 110, which is normal US, or you're running on 220, which is generally overseas, you flip the little switch inside this housing using like a little pencil or pen or something, or a screwdriver, and you want to select it to whichever voltage you're running on the inside, on the in current from your source. So like from your house, the line comes down. If it's 110, you flip the switch over to the 110 side. If you're overseas and you're at 220, you flip it over to 220. And that's it. Hopefully that answers some of your questions, and there'll be more videos to follow. Thanks.